All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College EWD 1000 Web Development Technologies course, I've been creating a series of video presentations based off of the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. And I'm in the accessibility section, and I'm under accessible multimedia. And as mentioned, there another category of content that can create accessibility problems is multimedia. And think about it. Video for someone who's blind, audio for someone who's deaf, image again for someone who's blind, etc. You want to come up with proper textual alternatives or some kind of an alternative that can be understood and utilized by these assistive technologies. So it says, so far in this module, we've looked at a variety of content and what needs to be done to ensure its accessibility. This article, on the other hand, looks at another general class of content that arguably isn't as easy to ensure, and that's being, again, is multimedia. It says, don't despair, we will help you navigate your way through. So, since we've already covered some simple alternatives for images, we look back at that, such as the alt tag. We've looked at that before. And it used to be with the alt tag that people put it in when they felt like putting it in. But now, other than if you're using some kind of a decorative image, and I've given you this example before that maybe I've got a little picture of a flower I want to stick on the, on the left-hand side of my, top left corner of my screen or top, whatever, that I may have an alt tag that's equal to double quote. Otherwise, you really should set it up. So, implementing controls for web-based audio video shouldn't be a problem, it says, right? All right, so the problem with the native controls. The video and audio instances come with their set of inbuilt controls that allow you to control media out of the box. You've already seen this. We've already looked at this particular example. And as it says, these kind of controls provide play button, pause button, seek button, etc. We've looked at all this kind of stuff before. However, as it says, there are problems, or at least possible problems with these controls. Number one, they're not keyboard accessible in most browsers. In other words, you can't tab between controls inside of a native player. Next, different browsers give the controls differing styles and differing functionality. And typically, again, as it says, they're not stylable. All right. To remedy this, we can create your own custom controls. Well, we looked at these before. Now, again, this is going to be a blessing and a curse. A blessing in that, yeah, you've got more control over how they're done, but a curse in that you've got to make sure then that you add the content so that it's possible to use this for an assistive technology. You probably have noticed now I want to get through this section, so I'm not really going through most of the examples other than maybe to run the completed one. But I'm not doing these from scratch as I have been in the past. I do not at all mean to downplay the importance of these, so you know. All right, HTML5 video and audio share an API, the HTML media element that allows you to map custom functionality to buttons and other controls that you define yourself. So they tell you to go in and grab this start with a CSS and then this rabbit thing again and save them. Just create a new file called main.js and put this in there. We've already looked at an example like this before. All right. And then they mention, it says here, we've inserted some basic simple control buttons below our video. These controls won't do anything by themselves. Rather, we'll have to use JavaScript. So this is what they're showing right here. So they create constants for each one of the controls, and next they grab a reference to the video player itself, right here. It says, before moving on to creating our button functionality, let's remove the native controls. You don't want there to be any way that, especially if people are using an assistive technology, that you've got two sets of things there. And that's what they're doing here, is to remove the one that you get by default. All right. First, they set up the play and the pause button, and as it says, we can get this to toggle between play and pause with a simple conditional function. If it's paused, set it to play. If it's play, set it to pause type of thing. Next, add the code to control the stop button. It says there is no stop function, so instead we just pause it and set the current time, which again is basically kind of a holder to where you are, back to 0. We've talked about this before in earlier lectures on multimedia. Next, the rewind and the fast forward buttons. And again, we've gone through these before. And as it says here, they're fairly simple. You just add or subtract 3 to the current time. Right. Lastly, it says add the following at the end to control the time-lapse delay. And again, like I said, we've pretty much gone over this stuff already in the previous example. So as it says here, this gives you a basic idea of how to add custom player functionality, but there's a lot more to it. And again, how important is this? Well, it depends on what kind of audio or video you're talking about, what your website, who your site is designed basically to serve, etc. The amount of publicness in it. In other words, if it's a government site, yeah, this is going to be darn important. That's why with a lot of these sites, you have a lot of people potentially who can be on your IT team or on your web design team, because there's a lot of stuff to do. To provide deaf people with access to audio content, you really need to create transcripts. These can be included on the same page, and I've seen that before where, basically you get 2/3 of the screen and the last third might have everything that's being done, and you can go along with the transcripts or it'll be below it or whatever. So as it says, your options are commercial services where you pay somebody to do it for you, community grassroots self-transcription, okay, and automated services. It says there are AI services available like Trint and Transcripts, and I've never looked at either of those. As with most things in life, you tend to get what you pay for. Different services vary in accuracy and time and cost. It is not okay to publish an audio resource, but promise to publish the transcript later on. As it says, these promises are oftentimes not kept. All right? If you say you're going to do it, and you should do it from the start. To make video accessible for deaf, blind, and other groups, it says you need to include text tracks along with your video content. These text tracks are also useful for potentially any user, not just those with disabilities. This is not a new concept. Television services have had closed captioning for quite a while. We've talked a little bit about this. There are different types of text tracks for different purposes. The main ones you'll come across are captions, subtitles, descriptions, and chapter titles, and they go through an example of how you could use that. That's pretty much it. I realize I'm kind of shortchanging this, and I'm sorry for that. All right, but I'm going to move on to mobile accessibility next. All right, and then finish it up with the accessibility troubleshooting, and that'll finish up this particular lesson. Be back shortly.